wintry next morning. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Princeton, where in our open and welcoming community, we live our message of hope, love, justice, and joy. Whether you're joining us online, hi online friends, or in Channing Hall, we're glad you are here. It is good to be together. We extend a special welcome to our visitors this morning. If you haven't already, we invite you to stop by our welcome table after worship in Robinson Lounge so we can answer your questions and get to know you a little bit better. Again, welcome to our congregation. We're very happy that you're here. We have lots of things going on. Please check your happenings in your order of service. And we also have a few announcements we want to point out. So having celebrated the holidays, it's now time to take down our greens. So after worship, we'll take down our garland and our tree. It's many hands light work adventure. So if you're able to help, even if it's just for a few minutes, that would be really appreciated. Just stick around here for a few moments right as we end worship. Also, after worship today, a little bit later, beginning at noon in the Foz Theater, you're invited to join me and Laurie Pausner for a caring, matter-of-fact conversation on holistic events care planning. We hope this time will help you explore your wishes and support communicating with friends and family about our living our last days. Later this month on Sunday, January 21st, Rev. Bill and I will lead a workshop on planning memorial services. Rainbow Ministry invites everyone to a viewing of the 2023 film Rustin, which is this coming Saturday, January 13th at 7 p.m. right here at UU Princeton. Rustin tells the story of Bayard Rustin, one of the most important leaders in the 1960s civil rights movement, whose story, which includes him being a gay man, has often been sidelined in our history. From our Racial Justice Ministry, we are planning a congregational book read for this month. It starts this month, goes into February. The book is titled Dismantling the Racism Machine by Karen Gaffney, and we'll be starting after service next Sunday, January 14th, with a workshop led by the author. Everyone is invited to that, regardless of whether you decide to carry on with weekly sessions. There will be weekly sessions to discuss the book moderated by facilitators after that. And you can learn more, purchase a book, sign up today in Robinson Lounge after service. Finally, we share a note from our friends with UU Faith Action. In November, the Old Bridge School Board voted to affirm policy 5756, which protects transgender youth in schools. And we have now found out that the school board at a meeting on this coming Tuesday, the 9th, there's expected to be a motion to repeal the policy. So we have been invited, our congregants here, to attend the meeting if you're able to, and a possible meeting the following Tuesday, the 16th, to speak, offer support, just kind of show up as advocates. More information is available at the UU Faith Action table in Robinson Lounge after service. And now let us center ourselves in community, to reflect, to listen, to consider and reconsider, to feel all the feels with these, our companions on this Sunday morning, resting into a sense that we are not alone on a mighty quest, the quest to know ourselves even in those tiniest of corners where we hide the icky. Come, my friends, let us co-create again a sanctuary grounded in our truth-seeking and held within compassion, our compassion for ourselves, for one another, and the world. We invite you to bring in your individual burdens and longings as we seek to uncover in our midst new sources of hope. Come, let us journey together. Come, let us worship.
Spirit of life and love, why is there something instead of nothing? Why do wishes sometimes come true when spoken beneath the stars? Why, after millions of years of life on this earth, does death still sting? Why is it so hard for people to learn how to love one another? Why does my heart laugh with the first flower of spring? Questions rise up within our souls, born of fear and delight, sorrow and confusion. Questions live within us, shaping our choices and our search for truth. Help us to embrace them and to grow. Lisa Friedman.
I invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, deep, abiding energy of the universe. God of many names and understandings, whose highest is always love. Send comfort to those of us whose hearts are broken, whose losses are deep, whose transitions are difficult. Celebrate with those of us holding the highest of joys and cherishing special moments. Recognize as we do that most of us are experiencing a combination of wonder and of woe, of comforts and concern. Let us treat each other tenderly as we shape our lives and as our lives shape us. From our shared care of one another, may we look to where we are needed outside of these walls and our congregational community. We know suffering exists for many. Those who are rebuilding after storms made of the quake of earth and the wake of waves. Those who live in fear of untimely death and destruction, who seek not only peace but survival, those who wish for return to their families. Those who have been forced from their homes and homelands and are seeking hospitality and shelter and being denied both. This earthly life can be so very hard. For each person living in a time of despair, we send our hope and healing, our fervent prayer for their health and happiness, for horror and hardships to cease. And the knowledge of the world's great unrest is always unsettling and can leave us feeling insufficient. Spirit of life, remind us that our power rests in the ways we support our neighbors and in the ways we support one another. Remind us to do what we can, where we are, with what we have. And when what we have feels meager, remind us to seek support for ourselves, that our journeys are an ebb and flow, and are shaping the beloved community in which all people are equally protected, equally thrive, and are equally loved, means we too are deserving of protection, thriving, love. Be with us as we tend to ourselves, to one another, and to our neighbors, and alongside other communities of faith and conscience, the wider world. Amen. I wonder if when all is done, anyone heard my voice. But from the start we have no choice. Our journeys just begin. I'll never know if I was right. Did I fight hard enough? Or when the battles grew too rough, should I have given in? This is a song called Gold, or the very beginning lyrics to it, which is from a musical, Camille Claudel, based on the turn of the century French sculptor of the same name. Camille was incredibly talented, yet lived in the shadow of her lover, Auguste Rodin. Her life was both extraordinary and of hardship. Her passion for art and her desire to pursue the craft was met with disapproval, both by her family and in society. Her mother was completely against it, but her father did provide some support. She was able to enroll at the Academy Calarossi, which, unlike France's School of Fine Arts, admitted women. She was a pioneer. She worked with nude models in her apprenticeship, which women did not do. She was independent and meticulous. She casted all of her works in bronze herself because she wouldn't trust anyone else to do it. And she also sculpted in marble. As her talent matured, her pieces were known and at the time criticized for being raw and sensual and direct, incredibly unladylike. Some of her most well-known pieces are The Waltz, The Wave, and The Mature Age or Maturity, if you want to look for those at some point, The Waltz, The Wave, and Maturity. Rodin immediately recognized Claudel's talents while at the Academy and took her on as an assistant in 1883. They quickly became lovers. She was 19, he was 43. The affair emotionally cost them both, but it was her career that suffered after she broke it off with him. In part, their relationship ended because Rodin refused to leave his longtime relationship with Rose Beret and marry Camille. And some also speculate that Rodin and Claudel were rivals and question if Auguste was threatened by Camille's talent and youth overtaking him. What is known is that without Rodin's financial backing, sculpting is expensive, or his legitimizing her in a time when women could not make a living like a man as an artist or anything else, she was left isolated. After her father's death, her mother and siblings abandoned her, disapproving of her chosen profession and the affair. Camille began to have symptoms of what was likely mental illness when she reached her 40s. Shortly after her father died, her family had her committed to an asylum where she remained for the rest of her life. Her brother, the writer Paul Claudel, signing the papers, quote, "For a while, the press accused her family of committing a sculptor of genius." Camille remained institutionalized for the rest of her life, despite medical staff recommending over the years that with support, she could not need to be there. Over those 30 years, her brother visited her 7 times, her sister once, her mother not at all. Here I stand and swear to you, I did the best that I could do. I know my voice was just a whisper, but someone may have heard. There were nights the moon above me stirred and let me grab a hold. My hands have touched the gold. I'll disclose that until I began the research for this sermon, I knew nothing about Camille Claudel. What I knew was this song. I've known this song for, I don't know, 15 years or more. It was recorded by singer and recording artist Linda Eder. Eder played Claudel in a developmental run of the musical back in 2003. And for those of you who want to know, and I know many of you will want to know or already know, the lyrics were by Nan Knighton and the music by Frank Wildhorn. Unfortunately, the project has not yet made it to Broadway. There are a lot of stops and starts since that time. The last planned regional theater was hopefully the Signature in Arlington, Virginia, but that was set to open in March of 2020. So we're hopeful, right? One day we're hopeful. Eder loved the song and she can belt it. So I won't be singing any more of it because the following stanzas require that belt. And I like to sing and I'm okay, but I don't have that type of voice. Eder included Gold on an album she recorded that same year. It's on the playlist I've named Broadway Divas. Now, part of my life's work, the greatest joy of my life's work, it's why I'm in this gig, I will say this many times, is journeying with others in rites of passage, births and coming of age, graduations, marriages, welcoming children, and the privilege and honor of gently tending to the passage that comes to us all, and that is in our dying. So I can't help but wonder who was with Camille in her last days. Was there a friend, a chaplain, a priest, a nurse, or caretaker? That's what I want for her. Was she aware of her dying? Did she have someone to share her stories with? Because the song Gold is all about thinking back on one's life. It's a fictionalized interpretation of Camille looking back on hers. Jack Mendelson wrote, and Linda Joy read this for us earlier, I know that human existence contains irreducible elements of tragedy and incompleteness. I know that I can never really comprehend the totality of things. I am finite. For me, the fundamental question of life is not why, but how. How shall I live while I live? This is the bedrock question. And answering it, it very much matters what I believe. As all women's lives were at the time, Camille's was determined by the men around her, from the original support of her father to her tumultuous love affair with Rodin, to her unsupportive brother, to the gender-based censorship of her work. However, much of the sculpture she left behind, infused with her passion, her independent spirit, remains in her own museum in France, at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, and at the Rodin museums, both in Paris and Philadelphia, among others. Our lives, all of our lives, contain these moments, irreducible elements of tragedy and completeness. And yes, ours are not, and Camille's life was not only about tragedy. She had a father that believed in her. She had friends that visited her while she was in the asylum. She knew love. She went after her dreams despite resistance at every turn. She was of beauty and sculpted with feeling and truth. How shall I live while I live? Mendelson asks. In my estimation, Camille lived authentically. What did she believe? I like to think she believed in herself and her journey, and I would wish the same for all of us. The song continues, my heart's been driven by extremes, blind with dreams, tight with fear, but still God knows that I was here and I was so alive. And now I lay the past to rest. For in the end, I did my best. And this is the belting part. Like, imagine Linda Eder just giving her all. You have to live the life you're given and never close your eyes. You hold on and stare into the skies and you burn against the cold, because in any moment, you might find the gold. Gold is a retrospective, considering what is my imprint? What is the meaning of my life? What mark have I made on the world? How has it marked me? Why am I here? How has my life mattered? Who mattered to me? Have I mattered to them? Gold is a taking of inventory. It's a life review. So I'm going to invite us together into a time of reflection. It starts with a guide that's been developed by Joshua Leach and Seth Robinson. So I invite us to be as comfortably as we can be together in discomfort, because we're going to be thinking about our life endings. Leach and Robinson write, when death comes, as it will come to us all, it may tap you politely on the shoulder. It may cough and nudge you to get your attention, or your death may come when you least expect it. It may come when you don't wish it to come, when it's the very last person that you wish to meet. You may hate your death and fear death. That's okay. Your death realizes this and does not mind. Imagine you are finally meeting your death face to face. Your death knows you do not wish to meet it and is saddened by the fact, because it is your oldest friend and companion and wishes to be loved by you. You ask your death, why? Why should you love it? How does it answer? Does it remind you that you could not live if you did not also die? Does it tell you that life and death are not enemies of one another, but two sides of the same coin? Does it remind you of the other things that you love, even though they too are finite, limited, terminal? Other people, places, memories, objects? Or does it say something else entirely, or nothing at all? Now let us imagine how we envision how we wish to be treated at the end of our lives. What type of care do I want in my final days? What don't I want? Who knows of my wishes? If it's possible, who would you like to be with you as you pass? Would you like to have your hand held? Would you like to have a member of your faith community or a minister told of your illness and ask for a prayer or a visit? Where ideally would you wish to be in your last days? At home? At your time of parting or prior to? What would you wish for your loved ones to know? How might you allow your loved ones to share what they want you to know? How would you like to be remembered? If you'd like to explore these questions a bit further, again, you can join Lori Pausner and I after the service in Foz, and you can always be in touch with myself, with Rev Bill. And this invitation is open to adults of all ages, and even as it feels appropriate for your family, older children and teens, because with their grown-ups with them, because planning how we would like to live out our last days is not an exercise, nor is it a reality limited to those of us in our golden years. On a recent trip to Cleveland to visit family, my husband, John, was driving, but my playlist was in control. And Gold came on. He had never heard it before. Now, you need to know that he is the person who wooed me as we watched the movie Up together, like really early in our relationship. If any of you know, Up is a Pixar movie, and it kind of centers on gruff, elderly widower Carl, who flies his entire house by way of 1,000 helium balloons to South America in order to fulfill a promise to his late wife, Ellie. It's sweet and funny, and it pulls on your heartstrings. We were barely a couple, and we were watching this story together, portrayed in Up, of a lifelong relationship and the grief of when one partner dies. So neither one of us were surprised that by the end of listening to Gold, still again driving, our hands were, we were holding one another's hands, and we had tears in our eyes because we're both saps. And it was through tears rolling down my face that I shared with him for the first time, this is the song I want for my memorial service. I've known from the moment I heard this song years and years ago that I wanted it from my memorial service because it reflects how I feel about life, how I feel about my life. Grateful for the purpose I have found within it, at least in the latter part of it. I'm still not sure how I survived my 20s. I, like most, have loved and I have hurt, and I have loved others and I have hurt others. Gold is relatable in the remembrance of joy and the wondering if we've made a difference, the acknowledgement of our own imperfections, the way it captures the magic we find in those moments of happiness and connection and gratitude. Gold might have been inspired by one artist, but encompasses everyone because we are each living works of art who just by our very presence make an imprint on the trajectory of the turning of this earth, the beauty of life, even if we have found it just in moments or just one single moment in its turn is imprinted on us. At the end of our life, may we be able to feel that, though our voices were just whispers that someone must have heard. There were nights the moon above us stirred and they let our lives take hold. We rode across that sky, and once we touched the gold, here in our own two hands, we once held the gold. So be it. At the end of our hour, we extinguish our chalice, knowing that its light carries us until we gather again. If you have come today seeking peace, may comfort wrap you in its embrace. If you have come seeking inspiration, may you leave sustained to address the world's great unrest. Go forth from here trusting in your worth and the value and dignity of all beings of which we are connected in abiding love. Go in peace and unrest, and again with abiding love. Amen.